welcome back to Cunt Be Bothered. We are showing up in person together.
This is so exciting, guys. And this is our 10th episode, so going into the double digits together in person. Super exciting.
Oh my God. I'm so pumped.
I'm so pumped too. We've come a really long way, and now that we're doing this in person, it feels like, oh shit, we're here. We've done this. And yeah, it's been great.
So excited. Our little studio.
We're joining you from my attic.
The loft.
The loft. It's iconic. This is where Abby stays every time she comes over to my house, and thought it'd be fitting to do our little recording up here.
The guest suite.
I feel like if my house was a house that the Real Housewives would come to for a trip, this would be like the room that Jen Shaw would want and Ramona would fight for.
Yeah, this is the room everybody would fight for and want. And I get it.
By default.
Me.
Little old me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's truly an honor.
Thanks, girl.
I'm so pumped. So yeah, we were talking about what we wanted to record today. And it was kind of funny because there must be something in the air here that I automatically think about Real Housewives, because last night I had a dream literally about Lenny Hochstein. Is that even his last name?
It is. I checked this morning.
Okay. Thank you for fact checking. Yeah, I had a dream that I was at a tattoo shop. I was about to get tatted up, and then I'm waiting, and in the background is Lenny with like a fucking bodyguard. He was like a mobster. And he just started like handing out wads of cash to everyone there to like buy their support of him. It was so weird. And I told you about it, and you're like, that checks out.
Yeah, it does. It really does. God, he is such a nightmare of a person. I'm not surprised. But honestly, this is like sleepover vibes. When Abby and I get together, we have dreams. We talk about them in the morning. Yeah. Sometimes they revolve around Real Housewives. Sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
And then we sit and we talk shit about reality TV. So I'm glad that you're joining this, because this is a real morning with us.
Truly.
Hearing about our shitty dreams.
Yeah, truly. Yeah. So then we were like, okay, maybe we should talk about house husbands.
Yeah.
Because I know we've talked about doing that at some point, and we're like, okay, this is like the perfect time.
Yeah. And we were talking last night with some friends about the podcast, and the more that we were getting into it, the more we were like, damn, some men on these shows really are trash, and we haven't really fully dived into that as much.
Yeah.
We've been kind of more like uplifting women as we do, but these men need to get called out on, and this is a platform to do it. So let's fucking do it.
Let's go.
And I think also too, like we were saying this morning, that there is more of a theme this season on Beverly Hills, a little bit in Potomac, and just kind of in general. Like New Jersey is always like historically revolved around husbands as well, but they're having a lot more of a presence, and they're having a lot more of a storyline, whether they're actually on screen or through conversations with the women. Like it revolves a lot around their husbands. So I don't know. It's kind of a weird theme that I'm seeing, and I'm not super into it.
Yeah, it's so weird. Like I feel like there's two extremes, because we've also seen a lot of the housewives come on and they're single. Like there is no man in the picture.
Yeah.
And then we have either like that, or their husbands are way too much in the picture.
Yeah, fully involved. Yeah. I don't know. I think like what's going to be interesting too is like obviously what's happening with PK and Mauricio. Like none of their separations are happening on screen currently, but of course like we know that that's happening off screen right now. So to see maybe potentially a new era of some like long-term marriages, it's going to be more of them being single, like being single on the shows, I think are going to be really interesting. I love seeing that personally, like seeing Lisa's journey post like separation from Lenny. Thank God.
So much better.
Yeah, so much better. I love seeing the like new chapter of women's lives, and like kind of how that's going to look moving forward. We'll kind of get into some men that we like on the show, and that like do add some sort of context and story that is humorous at the very least.
Yeah.
And I do appreciate that, but I don't know. I kind of wish overall it was more about women and not their husbands, but I guess that's kind of like reasserting the housewife branding, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's interesting. We won't just talk only trash. Like There are some men that are like, okay, you're doing a good job, so we want to give them a shout out.
Okay, maybe we'll start off with that positive note before we drag somebody.
So when we think about the house husbands that we appreciate and we value, like, who comes to mind for you?
Well, I think of men who are very supportive of their wives. First and foremost, I like when they just kind of let them shine. They understand that this is kind of like their show, their role. And a lot of times, like, I think the type of cast that's casted for this show has to be very like outgoing, really kind of like a diva, maybe a little spoiled, and which, like, I love seeing that. So I think to complement that personality tends to be a husband that is very like accommodating and more like lean back and reserved to kind of balance out the two personalities. So I always really like that, while also kind of seeing their personality come out. When we were putting this list together, I kind of immediately thought of Ken, Lisa Vanderpump's husband, because he is like quintessential, like, just worships the ground that she walks on, has the dog. He himself kind of has this like little bit of Beverly Hills vibe to him, and like, they just complement each other really well, and their styles are really synced up. So I really like that about Ken, and I also love that in the season before, or last season of Vanderpump Rules, he was kind of like dropping some tea about Scandival, and like his involvement in that way I thought was really funny, because he kind of just dropped a bomb and left, and it was pretty funny.
I can't believe that Sandoval was
old and jiggy, like, he's too precious. I just love him.
Yeah, it's so true. He is very precious, and I think sometimes he's in the background, but then he comes in with his little one-liners and he drops his little bombs. So but he totally is so supportive, and I completely agree. I also think about Eddie, like Wendy Osefo's husband, Eddie. He's probably like the first person that came to mind for me. And I know, again, he's not like, he's not always there. We don't see that much of him, but when we do, he's just so supportive of her. He's so caring. He's so sweet. He shows up for her. He just really like has her back and is like her biggest cheerleader. So I love and appreciate that so much. And it's nice to see like a healthy relationship where things are like gentle and kind. But I also feel like they're genuinely best friends. Yeah,
I totally feel that too. And we were talking yesterday about, because we were kind of rewatching some Potomac that I hadn't finished up on yet. And there was like those stupid cheating allegations that came out last season about him. And I just loved how they both were just laughing at that. And it felt really genuine. And I feel like that, not that people have to respond a certain way for it to be like valid, but to me, I was like, okay, that's definitely a couple that like, they actually like, there's no worry about infidelity there, because they're just totally laughing at it. So I like that he handled it in that way, and it just was easily reassuring to the audience and to her that there's nothing to worry about there. He's a great guy.
Exactly. No, I completely agree. Who else do you think of?
I mean, Joe Gorga is pretty iconic for me. For those of you that do follow Joe on Instagram, his like stupid motivational posts are really funny to me. I don't know if he's like joking or if he's being serious. I think he's being serious, but he's totally I can see him just like, he takes himself really seriously.
That's probably like 80% of the content that you share with me on social media is his motivational posts. It's like almost every day I get one from you, and I'm like, that I don't even have to go to his page. Anna's gonna give
I'm just gonna give it to you. But it's really funny because it's just the same couple pictures of him that he just puts different like quotes over. And a lot of times they reflect some drama that's happening with his sister, which I find to be really funny, because like, he's aware that people that follow him know him from the show. And if they're following him, they're more than likely supporting his side of things, because that is a very like them versus us situation there. And it's just so petty, and it's really, really funny to me. He's also said a lot of problematic things in the past, like more around women and gender roles in the show. Like New Jersey has kind of been notorious for that, of a lot of like cultural stereotypes and norms for women. And so I think he's really done a lot of unlearning and a lot of work. And I think in part of Melissa kind of holding him accountable and really being focused on how they want to raise their daughter, he's done a lot of growth and change. And I really do appreciate seeing that. He's one of those guys that I think is a little like overly involved. Like he's almost part of the main cast. Like when I think of New Jersey, he's like there more than other women are on the show. But I kind of like it. And I think he just adds something funny. So I really like him.
I agree. I also don't know if that's so much because of like his relationship with Melissa, but more the dynamic of the New Jersey franchise, like, which we will definitely get into on another episode.
I can't believe we haven't really done much of a deep dive on it because there's truly so much to talk about with New Jersey. It's like difficult to know where to start, right?
That's a big mountain to climb. I think we have to be like really energized and ready for
lots of coffee, maybe some substances to get us through it. It's honestly so tricky, but he is really just a funny person to me on off screen and on screen. I think he's just has a funny presence, so I like him.
Yeah, I totally agree. I also think about Terry Dubrow because like he actually, I do find him to be very funny, and like the balance of him and Heather and their it kind of reminds me of my relationship where I can be like super serious and like even like uptight sometimes, and then my husband is like so cute. Whatever, I'll call myself
dare I say
it. But like my husband will be super like goofy and silly, but then there is this like real connection between them with their values, like family and security, and just I don't know, they're just such a joy to watch. I feel like he really does have her back. We've seen a lot of times where he, you know, he's there to support her, but he will not speak for her. I think it was even that argument at like the Halloween party with all the girls ganging up on her, and he's like, will someone please go help my wife? Like, he's like, I know she can handle herself, but like, can someone just go support her and be there with her? Like, he lets her fight her own battles, which I really respect, but he also is like such a big cheerleader for her.
That's so true. I totally forgot about that scene, but he really, I feel like he's the ideal like partner of a Capricorn woman, and I really do like seeing that on screen. And the thing that's nice about them is like they are, I don't want to say traditional, but they do kind of have this way of talking about their marriage that's like very unconditional, and like of course they're going to be together forever, and like it's just very like, this is my person, I'm going to protect my marriage, but it doesn't feel toxic. It feels like a healthy level of commitment, and like a really great way of blending their family, and it's been really sweet. So I'm excited for their next steps together because I know that they just sold their home, so I think it's going to be a nice chapter for them. So love him. He's definitely on my top. Speaking of Orange County, I did think of Eddie, Tamara's husband, Eddie, which I didn't realize that Judge was her last name from him. I thought that was her last name. So that was funny. I don't know what her last name was before meeting him. Do you know? I can't remember. No. Anyways. So she took his name, and he is very like, again, part of like the personalities I like to see on screen from husbands are very like chill and laid back, and kind of like Tamara, as we talked about here before, she's kind of a force of her own. So to have him just kind of be like a little bit of a voice of reason, but also just understands that she is who she is and is going to be acting the way that she's acting. And he just kind of lets her do whatever she needs to do. And she'll vent to him a lot, and he'll kind of validate that. And more than anything, though, his facial expressions on camera are really funny. Like whenever he's listening to her vent or he's witnessing a conflict, he just like looks like he's kind of dissociating a little bit. And it's pretty hilarious.
He's like so used to it. He's just like I know.
But also I think like in the earlier seasons of Orange County, he was kind of trying to give her advice as to how to deal with things and to kind of ignore some women and like to not be friends with some of them. And I think over the years he's kind of just like, you're going to become friends with them in 2 minutes, because Tamara's the kind of person that will talk all this shit and then see Vicky in particular in person and be like, you know, I love you and like I miss you, you're like a sister to me. So I think he's just at a point of like, this is gonna come and go. Like I do appreciate that.
That's so true. I kind of forgot about the earlier days where, and I think she basically told him to like butt out at some point, and he learned, and he did.
I love that she's like, I'm gonna confide in you and how I feel about this, but have nothing to say about it. Like, please, I want no feedback.
That is also fair.
I get it.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's true. Another, like, just on OC, I know they're not married, but Gina's boyfriend, Travis, he is so sweet.
He's really great. He's really funny too.
Yeah, he is funny. He is. Yeah, think he gets the credit that he deserves.
No,
but
yeah.
like he has really showed up for Gina.
Yeah.
And like just as kind of, I don't know if he would identify as like a bonus parent or he's just kind of stepped into that role. He's been very understanding, very loving, very patient, and very graceful and respectful of, you know, the dynamic between Gina and her ex, and just working things out as a family, like really allowing her to do that in the way that is right for her and, you know, her ex and her kids. So
that's a really good point.
Shout out Travis.
Yeah, honestly, because I feel like a lot of I can see that being a problem for a lot of people, and I know that Gina had a lot of anxiety about dating again, and I know a lot of women probably feel that way when they leave a situation that she was in. So I major kudos to him and for like having a lot of space and capacity for being there for Gina and getting to know her ex. So love him. Love him, so genuine. Her. Another iconic name in Real Housewives is Harry.
Harry. Don't you ever talk about my husband.
Never go after my husband.
The way that she broke that wine glass, I'm like, damn, she fucking loves her husband.
No one can ever say that she doesn't.
No, she fucking loves her.
I respect that.
They just you could not be more opposite, the two of them. And I love that for her, because I feel like for me, I personally have a soft spot for Renna. I know a lot of people really don't like her and are really happy that she's off the show. And I can understand that. To me, I feel like there is this other side of her that we unfortunately didn't get to fully see in her relationship with Harry. And I think even her relationship with her mom, she's a very genuine person to me. And I love to see their dynamic with their kids and their house and the way that they would go camping all the time. And it was just like, and she also had a lot of really great boundaries with him. And she was like, he knows what he wants to do. I know that I don't want to do that. We don't hold each other in a bad way because of it. But you know, we just are different, and I really liked seeing that on camera, and I do miss that relationship.
Oh, speaking of families, my cat. You got something to say? You got something to say, man? Yeah, I totally agree.
He's also like done some modeling. I think last year he did like this cover of a magazine thing that was very like 70s coded, and it looked really, really cool. So I just love that the two of them do a lot of things outside of the show that like I know she's in the upcoming American Horror Story thing, and like that's gonna be really cool to see. So that's a good family.
I did really like the her little dancing videos where like Harry is in the background doing something, just completely ignoring her. He's like, what else is new? She's just like kind of poking at him.
I love that.
Funny. I also really like Chris Bassett, Candace's husband. I know there's also been a lot of like buzz around him. There's been a lot of you know, accusations, and I don't know, I don't really believe it. Like I don't really think there's anything there. I just see him as like such a big cheerleader and supporter of Candace. He's like bent over backwards to support her and be there for her, and I just feel like they really are a team. Like they really want each other to thrive and do well. And I also think he's really funny. Like I do think he has good one-liners. I love like he just gets a little bit of shade in there every now and then, but like not too blatantly.
He is married to Candace, so I think he would have to have some sort of one-liner talent.
But the way he also like calls her out and holds her accountable in ways, I feel like I can relate to that a little bit as well. Like where there's a little bit of sass, and it's like, don't sass me, like but I do love him.
Love him too. It's a good flavor to the show, and I think he also is like living a very normal life. Like he goes in between jobs, and he's a manager at a restaurant, and like a lot of women have tried to use that as a way of judging Candace and their relationship, and he's like, listen, like we went through a pandemic, like I'm in between jobs, so what? And I really liked that. I think they brought a lot of realness to the show that I think sometimes other women try to hide and put up a good face, but he was like, yeah, this is just my life.
Yeah, I feel like he is like very matter of fact, very grounded. He doesn't really feed into and play into all this stuff. I know there's been times where he has spoken up, but I felt like when he did, it was times that were really valid and called for, that were just, you know, getting out of hand. And it's like, okay, I would have done the same thing.
Exactly. Yeah, we love that.
Yeah. I guess the only other person that I think of is Nicole's husband, Anthony.
The pilot and lawyer.
No big deal.
No biggie.
We haven't seen a ton of him, but when we have, I feel like he is just so genuine. He's really supportive of her. He shows up for her. He's very like grounded, very understanding, and they just seem to have such a healthy, genuine relationship and like really be best friends. We saw them go on a couple dates and it just seemed so nice, like they were having a good time, and it was just really authentic, and I just love to see those healthy relationships we don't always see on reality TV.
I know. Sometimes I know that he was kind of like throwing some shade, but like I kind of appreciate that, because we're not going to pretend like people who hear of what's going on the show don't have anything to say about her and don't have an opinion. I know that sometimes, like, there's been a few times where some husbands get involved and they say, you know, they share their piece and it's like a little uncalled for and like probably a little misogynistic, but I feel like in instances with Anthony, it's felt justified, and it's also feeling like out of protection of his wife too, which makes a lot of sense. So I'm not mad at that personally.
For sure. I think sometimes like what's missing for me, and I mean, again, like when we talk about like toxic masculinity, that's a whole different episode. But like I don't feel like we see a lot of men like holding other men accountable, calling other men out in ways that are really, I don't know, healthy, I guess. So I'd love to see more of that if we are having the house husbands be such a big character on the show. Like,
that's a good point.
You know, but is that too much to ask? I don't know. It might be, but
I don't think it's too much to ask, but I do think it's probably unlikely, unfortunately. But it would be kind of cool to see.
Me? Toxic masculinity.
Toxic masculinity, not you. You're not toxic.
Speaking of toxic, let's think about the house husbands that are just that.
Well, it goes without saying to start off with that Michael Darby is one of the worst things that has happened to Bravo. Literally both on and off screen. He's just been awful to witness. We don't even need to list all the things that he's done because it's just horrific. But I am really happy that Ashley's out of that situation, more or less. I'm curious to see how things are now, because as we're watching Potomac, this was filmed like I think last year, so I'd be curious to hear how that separation sort of progressed, but definitely very happy for her that she's out of that. Excited to see her growth post Michael. I'm sure it's going to be a pretty tumultuous separation given how he kind of is. So just check that off the list. He's not great.
It definitely goes without saying, like that is like almost number one, but the bar is low.
The bar is really fucking low.
I also think about Todd, Alexia from Miami. You know, he's obviously more new to the series, but they have recently been married, and you know, even before they were married, it just was bad vibes all around. I just don't respect the man. I don't think he's healthy. I feel like he's very judgmental. He's come in hot about his opinions on, you know, their family and how she should be a mother.
I was just gonna say,
really, really hard to see, honestly. And obviously we don't know everything that's going on behind closed doors, but certain things people say, there's no justification. You can't explain that away. I feel like he's just very manipulative, and it's just full ick all around. I do not like it.
Yeah, and I feel like a similar thing that may come up with all these other husbands as well, that I couldn't imagine like being in a partnership and like saying the things that he has said, just as an example to Alexia about her being a mother, and like how that must feel when the cameras go away. You're like, did you really just say that on national television about me? Like that would feel so icky. I don't know how you would justify that in your mind to continue to be with this person. That would be so hard to reckon with.
Yeah, there's been some really tough moments with Todd in particular, where I'm like, I don't see how you could move forward in your marriage. Like,
no, honestly. And she's like kind of vocalized like her disappointment in him. So it's just like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
Are we disappointed? Are we staying together? Like how are we going to move forward with this, really?
Well, so far the disappointment continues, and we'll see.
It probably will.
How long that goes on for.
Not great. Another, guy that's been coming up the last little while in the new season of Potomac is Juan Dixon. Once again, these rumors are continuing to come on. I know we talked about this last week, so we don't need to go into all the specifics, but I'm not liking this man. I'm having a really hard time continuing to like stick out these conversations on Potomac about him. Like we talked about last week, that conversation that Giselle and Charisse had and Ashley had with Robin about it was good. I think that they handled themselves well, but it's just so clear that Robin's just like not in a place of wanting to even talk about it or hold him or herself accountable to what next steps sort of look like for them as a family. And I think the longer that she's defensive about it, it's just getting harder to like hold space for her on the show for me. And I'm just really over it. He's obviously a cheater. There's like a lawsuit against him now, I think for some sort of assault allegation. And that's really disappointing to see, obviously. And it's just gross and not nice. So
yeah, it's really hard when that gets so much airtime. We talked about it last week, but I did appreciate like how the other cast members are not letting that go under the radar. Like they're holding on to it, but they're not coming in too hot. They're being respectful, but definitely, I don't know. All eyes are on him right now.
Yeah, for sure.
And we'll see what happens. But he has given me the ick always. Yeah. Like, I do not trust the man. I don't believe in coincidences that much. There's just too many. You can't explain it away.
Too many. And something that Ashley had said, I think Ashley had said on the show that I thought was a really great point, was like, even if you're going to continue to do those things, hang out with women, do whatever you want to do, and Robin's okay with that, that's fine. But why are you acting this way while all eyes are on you right now? Let things pause for a beat, let things chill for a minute, and then resume kind of your normal activity that seems to work for you in your marriage. Yeah. But right now, this is not giving that you care, that you want to be held accountable to anything, that you want to move forward in a way that's respectful of your marriage. It's just really icky. And I don't see any hope in sight, unfortunately.
Like, you are a man child. Like, you're having a child temper tantrum. This whole attitude of like, fuck what other people think, I'm gonna do whatever the fuck I want, too bad if they don't like it. Like, who cares? If you genuinely don't care about other people, fine, don't worry about it, but think about your wife, think about your kids and your family. Like, disappointing. Like we said, the bar is low.
The bar is very, very low.
Speaking of low bars, we also have Lenny, who obviously is trash.
We're dreaming about how trashy he is.
Literally having dreams and nightmares. Just as with Juan, there's a lot of buzz. There's a lot of, it's kind of like what's going to happen next. The lawsuits, like just everything that you could do to be like shitty when you're going through a divorce. He's doing it. It's been hard to watch, and I know that we talked about this in another episode, but I feel like Lisa didn't get the support and kind of acknowledgement that she deserved with how much she's been put through. But I also saw that she's starting this new divorce.
Yes.
Amicable divorce company.
Yes.
Just cool.
I love that. As a Capricorn woman, I'm so fucking into this idea. I don't fully know too much about it, but from what I've read and seen, that it's basically separating your assets and separating your financial stuff through this like platform. It kind of helps with communication and assists with like lawyers sort of like getting involved or not involved through mediation. So I think it's great. And I love that she's, you know, continuously thriving through this really horrific, traumatizing time in her life. But yeah, he's just, I can't believe he's done this. And I loved when Lisa's tweet or Instagram post, I remember I saw it when I was on her feed one time, and it was also mentioned at BravoCon, where she was like, congratulations to my husband's new engagement or something like that. And I was like, bitch, this is because it's crazy. Like, it's actually wild that this man got engaged while still being married. And I think that they've since split up, so he's probably going to be crawling back to Lisa, begging for forgiveness for his family. And
I doubt it. I think he would be too prideful. But just the way that they captured him talking about her before they were separated, like, was absolutely disgusting. Like, that level of genuine callousness.
No, it was gross.
It was truly something to see.
There was even a clip too where he was like cameras had caught him talking to her, and this is when they first split up or still living in the house together, and he was like, don't you understand that like I think you're crazy and that I can't talk to you this way? Like, he was just being so emotionally abusive to her on camera, and like it's really upsetting to see that stuff, but at the same time, like, it's the reality of the situation. And I think like I was surprised that people and her castmates saw those clips and didn't have more to say to support her, because it was, if I had seen my friend be spoken to that way, that would be so upsetting. Like, he's truly trash.
Well, I think there is like a thread through Miami where they're just like lacking empathy in general.
Oh my god, Larsa.
I don't have a lot of empathy in Miami.
That's such a good point. That is the theme.
That's the missing ingredient.
Fuck, awful.
I know.
Awful.
Oh my gosh.
I do want to touch base. I kind of combine like Louis, I forgot how to say his name, like Ruelas.
Louis Ruelas.
Okay.
Ruelas.
Louis, like Louis. Teresa's new husband, which, keep in mind, Teresa got married to Louis on my wedding day also. So we have the same anniversary and same year and everything, which I think is really fucking funny. So him and Joe Giudice, so Teresa's ex-husband, I've kind of put in the same category. They're separate people, obviously, but I do see some similarities between the two of them, and I do think that they're both just like not great matches for Teresa. At the same time, though, that's kind of like what she's putting out there, what she wants, so maybe it is a good match for her where she's at right now. But he's just like really inserted himself into a lot of drama with the family, and it's giving like, I really want to be on the show, which is icky. And I don't think he's a good guy, and I don't think he has good intentions. Him wearing her late father's pajamas to bed to comfort his new stepdaughters, bizarre. There's no justifying that. I know that he tried to like correct it later. You said what you said. It's fucking weird, and that's it. I
felt like he was justifying, not trying to correct. He was like, here's why I said that, and here's what and it was like, you're not making it sound any better.
No, it's creepy.
He actually is very creepy. I'm very creeped out by him, not even in a good way. Like, he gives me the ick.
So he's so red too.
He's a very red man.
He's just like his
blood pressure.
Yeah, his blood pressure is really high. And I think it goes without saying that Joe like obviously put Teresa in prison. Like, that's not a good husband. Like,
can't we see past that?
Like, that's not great. And I know that he like really struggled through those seasons. And felt I can't talk about New Jersey without laughing. The way that he lives his life, he's like, no, what are you gonna do about it? Like, everything, it's like, what are you gonna do about it?
I genuinely feel like he just does not. Like, what do you care about? Like, I know you care about your parents. Yeah, like what gives you passion in life?
Yeah, the
Like,
men on New Jersey just exist in a whole other realm that's just like, I don't understand what's going on. It's just
oh my
like,
God.
yep.
Ah,
I don't know.
it is very funny.
Yeah, it's just not a great track record for Teresa, unfortunately.
No, definitely not. Yeah, another one who's been like pretty problematic and has said a lot of really outrageous things is Gordon, who is you know I was coming.
Gordon.
Gordon.
Not the name.
I know. It's yeah. He and now they're divorcing. Or they are
Yes.
divorced. I'm not entirely sure.
And I think she's admitted to being with him for his money.
Fair enough, because why else would you be with him? Like
he's so inappropriate. He was like flicking his tongue at Karen.
Ew.
Remember that?
He was so gross. He was being so creepy with all the ladies. Like, I can't even remember what he said, but it was absolutely outrageous. Like, when he first met, it was his first time meeting most of these women.
He's drunk and flicking his tongue.
Ew. And he's made all these advances and said all these disgusting. And I remember, I think it was Wendy was one of the first people there, and she was like, "Are we serious?" Like, no.
I could imagine, like, because these ladies, like, they really get ready for these events and like hold themselves to a really high standard and like, you know, hold their husbands to a high standard, and they go to these events thinking, I'm going to spend some really nice time, some really nice people, and then they just walk in dressed to the nines and be treated like this, and I would just be like, fuck this.
Oh
like,
my God.
I look too good to be spoken to by this creepy ass man who's like saying some shit about his sex life, and it's just weird. Like, yeah, it was something to do with that.
Whatever they were talking about that whole time was extremely graphic, and it was disturbing. And that would be a time where we need the other husbands to step in and be like, bro, like, come on.
Yeah.
Like,
you gotta stop.
Leave it alone. Like, yeah. Oh,
so gross.
Creepy and problematic. So I don't think we're gonna miss him on the show.
Yeah.
He's just like such a character.
Yeah, these men are just like out here just being gross.
I know. Yeah. I'm just disturbed. Like, can you imagine you like getting together with friend groups and meeting each other's partners, and then someone's partner is like spewing off all this graphic sexual shit and like making weird advances? Like,
no.
Where are the people to step in and be like, can you chill?
Yeah. And I feel like Mia kind of did like feel that a little too, like especially with her friendship that was on the show, and she was always alluding to threesomes and like all this weird stuff. Like, she was also kind of saying some pretty vulgar things while meeting people like the first time. She enables him. Yeah, she does. And I think it's like, it's kind of giving like, my husband thinks this is funny and like sexy, I think, to some degree, so I'm gonna like be like this.
It's like everyone is a pawn in their weird twisted game.
Yeah.
And literally that's what it's giving. Like, it's a pawn.
Yeah, not cute, not good. Not as extreme, but I will end off on PK. Because he said some. Actually, the Erica thing was pretty disgusting. Now that I'm thinking about it, wow, no,
he's quite misogynistic.
Yeah, he's misogynistic. He's not supportive of his wife. He's just he's doing a lot right now. And I'm happy to see that Dorit is potentially leaving him.
Dorit like vehemently denies this.
Oh, really?
She's adamant that like they're not separating. She's like, and I think a lot of that happened at BravoCon. She was asked about this, and she's like, we are working on things, but like, we are not separated. We are not separating. We're, you know, still very committed to our family and our relationship. Wow, okay. And so I have no idea. Like, we're gonna find out.
I think there's also like various like definitions of these things, because when Kyle was saying that her and Mauricio like weren't divorced, that's true, but that doesn't mean that they're not together, right? Like, and so I think when she's saying we're not separated, that may mean legally, but maybe like physically they're living apart, right? Like, it's absolutely. So it's, you kind of just like read between the lines with like these statements, because they are crafted so carefully, because they know that people are going to be reading them and it needs to be black and white. But
Yeah,
you know,
understandably, like, especially after seeing everything happening with Kyle and Mauricio, like, just in the news, like, they would be like, okay, we need to avoid this.
Yeah, no, I could totally see that.
Yeah. One other couple that I just want to mention is Shane and Emily.
Yeah.
I've stated my feelings about Emily before, and in part it is honestly because of how much she like enables and justifies her husband's toxic behavior. Like, from my perspective, like, he is not supportive. He is toxic. And sure, he can compliment his wife and he can say something good about her after, you know, the repercussions of shitty things he's said and done.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's kind of for the cameras. I'm just not buying that it's genuine. Like, the way he undermines her as a mother in front of their kids, like, you know, all he has to do is apologize while literally laughing. And then she's like, okay, I'm over it. Let's move on. Our relationship is stronger than ever. And I'm like, don't you see this toxic cycle that you're in, Emily? Like, come on.
Don't say that, stronger than ever. And that's usually what it means, that they are like barely hanging on.
I just don't like the way he talks to her.
Yeah, same.
I think that he's not a good person.
No, I agree. And I think too, like, it was interesting to see him go through the, what's it called? SAT stuff.
Yes.
Like trying to pass the bar exam.
Yes.
And like their dynamic was really, really rocky.
Yeah.
During that time, and put a lot of pressure on her. I also find it incredibly cringy that they decided to get married through Facebook Messenger. Do you remember that?
No.
Yeah, they were friends, and he was like, "We should get married on Facebook." She was like, "Okay," and then they did.
They just have a weird vibe, weird dynamic. Don't like it. Don't like what I see. Don't like how he talks to her.
Yeah.
Don't like how she justifies his behavior.
Yeah, that's a good point.
All around, just don't like it. Their relationship makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah, fair enough. We do have some honorable mentions and dishonorable mentions. Just people who either like they weren't fully married on the show, so they didn't quite count on our list as like husbands necessarily, or
they're not like stronger personalities.
Yeah. So we'll start with honorable mentions just to give us a little break, some positivity here. Justin Rose. So as much as you know, we have some opinions about Whitney on the show, her husband has been pretty sweet and he's been very kind. I also do really feel for him for losing his job after doing that like weird painting canvas sex thing.
Like, of all the things you could be fired for being on the show, like shitty. That's the one. Like, that's the hill you're gonna die on.
The clip that they always show they're referencing is him like smacking her ass in paint, and it's just like,
it was just not. Yeah,
it was just really, really silly, and I really feel for him with that.
I know that was quite an ordeal, but I do think he is really supportive of her, and I feel like he shows up really genuinely in the relationship, and you know, he just seems like a nice man.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah,
and his new veneers are giving. They're pretty.
They're giving. I need sunglasses. Oh my gosh. Okay, so Justin, we also have Evan, who is Jackie Goldschneider.
Landed it.
Jackie's husband. He's very nice. He's very supportive of her. You know, she was going through a lot in her recovery. And he just like really showed up for her around that. He wasn't judgmental. I kind of got the vibe that like maybe he went to therapy or maybe did some research and like made some effort to understand how to support her. Totally. And I just really appreciate that. It showed. And he just seems kind.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Another person's kind of similar to that for me is Russell, Gertie's husband on Real Housewives of Miami. I feel like he is also very supportive. I love that he is always supportive of Gertie's business adventures. Right now, where we're at in Miami, we know that she was recently diagnosed with breast cancer, and they do kind of go through like quite a journey that I've seen on Instagram, and he seems to be incredibly supportive of her during that time. So I'm looking forward to kind of seeing how that plays on camera, but he's also one of those people that's pretty reserved, but seems like just really like a really good guy.
Yeah, I agree. And also, like, when we hear Gertie talk about her husband, she speaks very highly of him, and I just think that's really nice.
Yeah, that's true. That's a really good point.
Yeah. We also have John Barlow, who you know, there's
for this poor man, like, honestly,
I cannot imagine anyone more patient.
No, truly.
Yeah, he really does deal with a lot. So funny too, like, one of the earliest times we ever saw him was when Lisa was doing one of her events, and he's like driving around in the truck, I think, and he's getting ordered around to like go do this, go drop that off, and he's just down for it. He's just like, I will do whatever I can to help you. Like, this is just the way it is. I'm just, you know, I'm suffering, but I'm here to help. And he just seems really like, again, a good person, a good dad. Well done, John Barlow.
Yeah. I also do remember this like one time, I think it might have been the first season where like I think he was doing his confessional and the producers were like, did Lisa tell you to say this about her? And he was like, maybe.
I cannot confirm or deny.
Yeah, that was really sweet. I do kind of like wonder how he's feeling about all these conversations that are being had about their son going on a mission. I know he's really, really proud of his son, which is really sweet to also see on camera. But I can imagine that would be like difficult to navigate for him, seeing like some judgment and also seeing how like Lisa's sort of navigating that. But ultimately they seem to be like they're in a good spot, which is good to see. So good for him.
Yeah, no, definitely. We also have some dishonorable mentions.
Yes, I rolls at these men.
Yeah, probably the first one that came to mind was Brooks. Brooks.
Well, when I brought up this name earlier, Abby thought I was talking about Meredith Marks' son.
I was like, why are you talking about Brooks Marks? Because that's the only Brooks in my eyes.
Yeah, no, it's fair enough. No, Brooks being Vicky Gunvalson's ex, so they were never married, thank God. But of course, like that we know the whole lore of him of faking cancer and some pretty outrageous shit that he has said and done, and kind of just like scammed Vicky at the end of the day, just scammed her.
He roped her in.
It was pretty brutal. Seeing that interview, I kind of want to find it and rewatch it now that some time has passed, but he did do an interview with Andy at one point, and it was pretty like uncomfortable, and Andy was asking some pretty intense questions, and you could just really tell that Brooks was just not mentally doing okay. Obviously, given the things that he was like doing at that point, that isn't sign of somebody who's like mentally doing that great. So his presence on the show was not awesome, definitely took up a lot of airtime, and it felt like he was one of the wives there at one point. Like sometimes these men like do overshadow like some other women who have totally forgotten about, who were only on for a season or two. Like he's stuck in my mind over some other people that, you know, were on the show for many years. So unfortunately he did have a lot of time, but he's gone now, thank God.
No, that's so true. Some of them obviously we've seen for much longer. They stand out because they're more recent. But another one who's kind of like from a little bit further back that we still remember, we still cringe when he comes up, is Slade Smiley.
I can't believe that's his last name.
With a name like that, Slade Smiley.
It like, I feel like that is, if somebody were to be writing a movie, like a horror movie about like a frat boy, like that would be the name.
Literal frat boy.
Slade Smiley.
It's giving frat boy.
He, I mean, did this like pretty horrific comedy show, like basically talking shit about Vicky and Tamara, and that was really sexist and awful and just like not funny at all. And it was really upsetting to see Gretchen like defend him essentially, and she was like, well, that's what he said, not me. It was just not nice. And as much as I don't like Vicky and Tamara at times, like that was obviously really not okay. And he was just kind of like mooching off of Gretchen for a long time, and that was like really uncomfortable to see, but good for her for still not being married to him, although they are like common law and they are long-term partners. He's decided to not marry him due to his financial situation, so
fair enough.
Good for them.
Yeah,
good for her at least.
He's just icky. Like, I don't know if you saw the earlier stuff too when he was with Joe. Did you see that?
No.
That I feel like you should watch, because it's going to be really interesting getting that context. And yes, obviously that was a long time ago. People can change, people can grow, blah, blah, blah. We know. But like he I don't know. You just have to see it, because I feel like he was allowed to go unchecked entirely for so long, and they were very like enmeshed and codependent in their relationship. And he really was in like such a position of power that I do feel like we got a real glimpse at like who he actually is. I can't help but think that when someone is allowed to just go unchecked and they have nothing but like being in a power position, I don't know. I feel like it's just who he is just deeply misogynistic.
100%. Yeah, he's definitely giving that. Glad that he's not currently on the show anymore.
Honestly,
I don't think he would ever even be casted, or somebody like him would be casted anymore. It's just too problematic.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you'd hope.
We'll see.
Yeah. Someone who's kind of changed though recently in our minds is Maurizio.
Yeah.
I don't know I mean, we've talked about this a little bit, and I think if we did this episode a year ago, he would have made my top 5.
Oh, probably. Number 1. Yeah.
Like
I loved him.
Always my favorite. I thought he was like super tender and gentle and just such a cheerleader for Kyle. Like he really showed up for her, or at least that's what we saw. And I don't know if something has changed, or if it literally is just that Kyle is not filtering and covering for him anymore, that we're seeing more of who he is, because he's giving a lot of toxic vibes now, just the way that he talks to her. Yeah,
he is. I mean, I was really surprised by his whole attitude towards her getting tattoos. Like, I feel like that used to be such a thing to think about, like, what our partners would think of tattoos. Now, to me, at least in my world and in my friend group and in my social network, that's not really something that women think about or even factor in. Even like when it comes to getting haircuts or how we want to do our makeup, like we just don't think about how men receive it.
No.
But I think that still is the truth for a lot of women out there that I kind of forgot about.
Yeah.
And so seeing her kind of like, act against that and sort of speak up for herself is really good to see, but also kind of like shocking that that's even a conversation that's being had.
The stark contrast.
Yeah. And I've always seen their marriage as being really healthy, and I always kind of like looked up to them in comparison to other marriages on the show as being like, how do you respect your partner and support them? And it's just been really upsetting to see them obviously separate. I know that like we don't even really have a lot of details about their separation, but even just the fact that they're separated alone has made a lot of headlines. I think that speaks to how the audience connected with him and her and their marriage. So it's upsetting to see, but I do agree with you that like this is more of Kyle and being in a place of not wanting to explain or defend for him anymore, and just kind of like letting him have his opinions, and she's just gonna fight back against it on camera at this point because she seems really checked out. So curious to see how the rest of the season goes with that.
I know. It's such a big question mark right now, but I mean, ultimately we're watching for Kyle, we're not watching for Mo.
Exactly.
So we're still here for it, we're still showing up and just cheering Kyle on.
Go Kyle.
Yes.
We love you.
We love her.
Well, that's kind of all that I had to say. I think for moving forward though, like I think we will continue to see like the husbands be involved. I think especially with New Jersey, that's not going to go anywhere. I think this whole drama between like Melissa, Teresa, Joe is going to kind of progress, and Louis now is going to continue to progress and be a major storyline. I think that's going to continue in other franchises as well.
I'm just
but
we also see way more single housewives as well, so we love to see that too. New York is one where there's not a lot of marriages actually in the New York cast, old or new. So yeah, it's really interesting to see how those dynamics play out. But definitely wanted to give a shout out to some of those house husbands that we love and appreciate, and the ones that are super problematic and we don't miss you. So
I hope we're moving towards an era of single housewives and healthy marriages. And also, like, as much as I don't like Sutton, I do kind of like seeing her dating life too. I think that that's an interesting other category that we could see in relationships. And so that's been kind of fun to witness as well. I'd be curious if Erica finds somebody too.
I know
that would be fun.
I know,
but I do love her single era right now, so let's just keep it that way.
I know we appreciate our queen.
We do. Thanks for tuning in, everybody, for our 10th episode and joining us in my attic. You're welcome here anytime.
Special feature. Yeah. All right. We'll see you on the next episode of Cunt Be Bothered.
Bye.